This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a good day. But you know what time it is. It's Q&A time. We're going to answer some questions you guys had on Twitter. And I'm going to start with Ricky. Ricky's question: if the Browns win the AFC Championship, so they get to the Super Bowl with DTR under center and playing well, would this create a quarterback controversy? And if DTR did become the franchise quarterback, how would they handle Watson's contract? Thanks. Now, again, this is a dream scenario, and dreams sometimes come true. Not to throw like cold water on that. I don't think it's a 0% chance of happening. Everything has a possibility. But let's say DTR and the Browns get to the AFC Championship game, beat the Kansas City Chiefs off the back of a strong DTR performance, and then whatever happens in the Super Bowl happens in the Super Bowl. Either you win, you lose, you don't. What does that do with Deshaun Watson's contract? Virtually nothing. But it wouldn't really matter, right? Because the bottom line would be you would be paying for $45 million of quarterback play if you're getting it, but the person who's giving you that play just isn't getting the money. It really doesn't matter. So if DTR balls out, it doesn't matter that you have Deshaun Watson under contract because the logistics of the money are the same, right? It'd just be a little awkward because Deshaun would be there. Now, let's say you go on a run, go to the AFC Championship game. Do you immediately bench Deshaun Watson for the rest of his stay here in Cleveland? It's an intriguing question, right? Depends on how good that offense looks, how good DTR looks. I think it would be a little bit of an awkward situation, to be honest with you, if that happened the season after. Like, you might end up with an Ohio State situation after Cardale Jones went on that national championship run where they kind of wanted to go back to JT Barrett, but they had to give Cardale a chance based on what he did in the playoffs last year. And it kind of just was awkward, right? Having all of those guys back. And I think that's probably going to be where it's at. Likely if DTR won like a Super Bowl, and again, we're being hypothetical here, but if DTR won the Super Bowl, you would have to start him the next year. And that would be awkward with how you would put in Deshaun Watson not in there. Now, if he gets carried to a Super Bowl, similar like Brock Osweiler or that last year of Peyton Manning, then I think you can go back to Deshaun Watson. But if he is like the best player or one of the best players on the championship team, hey man, it's one of them good problems. Like, either way, for us to be talking about this, something has to go incredibly right this year. And for a Browns fan who has had no quarterback options for 23 years, 24, I will gladly take having too many quarterback options. Like, that's one of them good problems, as Stringer Bell would put it. Well, not Stringer Bell. I think that was Avon or somebody in the comment section who watches a lot of The Wire. Tell me whose quote was that. That's one of them good problems, ain't it? I feel like it was one of the kids in season 4. Or maybe it was Marlo. This ain't a Wire video. Let me get back to these damn questions, man. Mike says, oh, random one, but might be fun to answer. Why do announcers have to announce the school that these guys went to every play? These dudes spend 3 years not even at the same school anymore, but it seems like college is everything. I'm obviously not a fan of college football. Well, you have to remember, the announcers aren't really there for the hardcore football fan, right? That's not what the play-by-play announcer is there for. The play-by-play announcer and the color commentary are there to make the game accessible to people who might not spend a disproportionate amount of time researching the game. So people like me, or if you watch this video, you watch like 3 videos deep and you got 4 Browns podcasts that you're listening to, and then you even break down the film in your own free time, you're not the target demographic of the play-by-play announcers. And that wouldn't be profitable for the league if they were targeting dudes like you and me, right? Like, it's more or less for, the people who are just kind of glancing in on this. And the reason I think a lot of play-by-play announcers go back to saying the colleges is one, hey man, I don't know if you've ever been live, you've ever done play-by-play live. I've done it before. Sometimes you just need stuff to say, and saying a dude's college counts as something to say. Also, it's helpful to give people like a background of, oh, this guy's from Pennsylvania, or at least he has Pennsylvania roots. This guy has Pennsylvania ties or California ties. It helps get people who might not be super involved in the X's and O's to be invested in somebody's story, right? Kenny Pickett's a good example of this, because you'll meet a lot of people in Pittsburgh who just love Kenny Pickett's story simply because he went to Pitt and now he plays for Pittsburgh. Right. That's like he's a hometown kid kind of thing. Right. Or if there's an Ohio State kid on the Buckeyes, on the Browns or something like that. Like, I think that's why they bring it up. So it's a combination of just needing stuff to fill time, because you don't want dead air when you're doing play-by-play announcing, which I understand that struggle from the little experience of play-by-play announcing that I ever have done. And two, we always have to have a grip on, hey, the play-by-play announcers aren't for us. Right. Therefore, people who don't necessarily consume everything that the NFL has to offer. They're for people who kind of casually watch the game and want to know a little bit of background and want to know why this and that, because me and you, we can provide our own analysis. That's what my watch party is for, right? To have those conversations in real time at that level. That's why I do the live watch party, so we can have that for those of us who choose to want that. By the way, make sure you subscribe so you check out those watch parties when they happen. But that's what my watch parties are for. But the live broadcast on CBS or Fox, that's for, your cousin or your uncle or whoever it is, to just have enough background and know what's going on, know what the context is of the game, and be able to get invested via that, right? I think that's what it's for. And I think sometimes people lose that because they want the play-by-play to say everything that they're thinking. But again, it's not targeted towards anybody who's like a diehard football fan. It's more targeted towards people who have kind of not a casual interest, but I was going to say healthy, but because I would not describe my relationship with football as healthy. But I would say for people who have a normal interest in football, that's who that is for, right? Like, what first down is, all that stuff, all the basics, but you might not know some of the intricacies of a scheme or something like that. And that's why a lot of misinformation can happen on the broadcast, because they'll be wrong about something, and then people who don't know much will take that as gospel and then start spreading that, and it just becomes a thing. But yeah, the play-by-play announcers are just not for people who are inclined hardcore enough to watch a guy who does like 3 video film breakdowns a week on one team and one aspect of a team, and does a bunch of videos breaking down certain things on it. Like, it's not for us diehards. That's what my watch party's for, though. Victor Grimes says, something I truly don't understand. If the cameras see Miles being held with the referee standing right there, does the league do something about it, or does the team have to complain? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's right on camera with 2 referees in the same frame. Yeah, this is something that like the elite edge rushers all deal with. TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, they all kind of have to deal with this. I think Miles deals with that at a different level. And I think what's super unfair about it when it comes to Miles is, if we go down to the base of what a penalty is for, a penalty is for when somebody feels like you have an unfair advantage, right? Like, you're doing something that gives you an unfair competitive advantage. That's what a penalty is supposed to be there for. I think they don't throw these flags on Miles simply because he's such a great athlete. He's such a good player that it takes so much to make it feel like your average left tackle is getting an unfair competitive advantage versus somebody who was born with what the refs might see as an unfair competitive advantage. Right? Like, I think what the refs are trying to do is nerf the best pass rushers in the NFL. Not because they're being malicious, but because they're trying to like live up to the spirit of the law rather than the letter of it. And when you live up to the spirit of the law and you're looking at Miles or TJ just completely dominate a tackle and that tackle holds on a little bit, you go, well, that's not that big of a deal, right? Because they don't need the extra help. So that's the best explanation I can think of. It's not fair for Miles that his existence is seen as a competitive advantage, so he doesn't get penalties because of that. And it's not fair for players who put in a lot of work to be great, that once they reach that greatness, it feels like the NFL or the officiating tries to nerf them. But that's basically what they're doing, right? Miles is too powerful, so they're nerfing him. It's the same thing as when you play Call of Duty and you got a gun that's like chopping up everybody. People are getting pissed at it, that this shotgun with explosive bullets, it has too much range, it's too accurate, it's too good, and it doesn't require a ton of skill to be successful. And what does Call of Duty do? They nerf that gun and make it not as good anymore. And that's what refs are trying to do with edge rushers. They're trying to nerf them as best as possible, right? Andrew Wolfgang says, do you see a bigger Elijah Moore game this week with his familiarity with Flacco? You know, Elijah Moore the last few weeks quietly has been putting together more or less the season that you kind of expected of him. Like, I always had him between 650 to 800 yards. Right now he's about 460 yards. So he's on track to get into that range. So quiet as kept, he's been playing much better and getting the ball more consistently. And I do think with Joe Flacco in there, he'll be checking for Elijah Moore just a little bit more. And maybe he hits Elijah on one of those deep shots that we've seen been open all year. So yeah, I think Elijah's going to put together a decent game here, maybe 70, 80 yards. But I don't expect him to put up like 200 or something like that. Null and Void says, do you think Stefanski needs to move on from AVP in the offseason to freshen up the offense and incorporate more motion? I don't think you need to get rid of Alex Van Pelt to do that, though. Right. And I don't think the issue is Alex Van Pelt. I think, maybe you can bring in some newer voices. I don't think this team has an official quarterbacks coach right now. So you could bring in somebody to handle those responsibilities that's a bit more experienced, that can add some new perspectives to the room. Changes like that don't require a complete change in coordinator. And even with moving out Alex Van Pelt, he's more or less a glorified offensive assistant for Kevin Stefanski, because Kevin's still the guy that's in charge of the offense. So I don't think you really change much there. It's about Kevin, being willing to put new people into the room to kind of adjust the offensive game plan and help it evolve into the 21st century, which, look, it's kind of hard to judge this offense off of this year because everybody's been hurt all year. And I know the offense hasn't been good, but we've also seen this offense be fine recently too, without even Deshaun Watson there. So, I think they'll make those changes and make the adjustments they need to. My man, Northeast Ohio sports fan, with the Cleveland Heights logo. I gotta get that off the screen, bro. Gotta get that. I don't rocks with Cleveland Heights. No. But I'll read your question. Do you think we'll see Miles lined up slightly more on the other end of the line due to his shoulder injury? I think Miles is going to play Miles's game. I don't really think he's going to change anything. He's a superhuman. He is incredible, and he's going to go out there and play like Myles Garrett on both sides. He might go in the middle. I really don't think that the injury is going to really change much to how Miles approaches. He's not a normal person. Shout out to you. No shout out to Cleveland Heights. You know how much Cleveland Heights done whipped us, man, when I was in high school, and they talk all that garbage. You think I'm about to put their logo up on the screen? Nah, dog. Cleveland Heights is a high school rival of mine, for those of you who don't know. So everybody else be happy for Travis and Jason Kelce. Not me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just Dave says, so you think this battered up offensive line would be able to protect a stationary quarterback like Flacco? Thing is, with Flacco, he doesn't hold on to the ball. right? Taking sacks is about a matter of holding on to the ball. Deshaun Watson takes more sacks than Joe Flacco, despite the fact that Deshaun Watson is much, much, much more athletic than Joe Flacco, right? And I don't know why people equate athleticism with like taking less sacks, but that's never how that split has gone. The only thing that has a positive correlation with taking less sacks is getting rid of the ball quickly. You can run 4-3, you can run 5-3. If you get rid of that ball quick, you're gonna take less sacks. It don't matter. Like, it don't matter how fast you are. You're not outrunning dudes in the NFL. You're gonna take sacks if you try to stay behind the line of scrimmage for more than 3 seconds. Aiden says, if we get this win with Flacco and DTR gets cleared next week, who starts? I think you go back to DTR. I think it's very clear from how Kevin talks about that. DTR is the starter right now. You're going to Joe Flacco this week. You hope you can put together a good game, but DTR is who you want to go to, and DTR is who has the upside. And look, no disrespect to Joe Flacco. I think Joe Flacco is going to do a good job this Sunday against the Rams. But the issue with Joe Flacco isn't that he can't put together a good game at this point in his career. The issue is that he's 38, and how many games back-to-back can you really play Joe Flacco? I think the limit is 2. I think you can play Joe Flacco back-to-back 2 games before that falls apart. Not because he's not good anymore, just because he's 38 and his body ain't going to hold up. Like, that's just what it is. And I think you can get 2 back-to-back starts out of Joe Flacco. That's what you got with him. And that's fine for a backup quarterback. That's usually what you get with a backup quarterback, is 2 decent back-to-back starts. If you get that, that's great. That's best case scenario for backup quarterback, is 2 decent back-to-back starts. But if you have to play him any longer than that, I think the wheels fall off. If you look at what happened to him at the beginning of the season with the New York Jets, he played 2 decent games, threw the ball like 100 times in those 2 games. 3rd game, he was cooked. He was absolutely cooked. Had a PFF grade of like 20. You got 2 back-to-back games with somebody who's 38. You can't play him for like 6, 7, 8 games. His body's going to break down. He's not going to recover. He's not going to be the same player, right? But you got those 2. And you got to take advantage of it, right? It's kind of why nobody wants to sign Cam to be a starter, because Cam's body's only going to hold up for like a month before it breaks down. Like, it might be cool for that month, but it's going to break down, right? And that's why you would want to go with DTR, because you know whatever you get out of DTR, you have a higher chance of being able to sustain that for a longer period of time than you do with Joe Flacco. Despite Joe Flacco being a veteran, he's also old, 38, your body going to break down. Hey, time's undefeated. Time is undefeated. If time took down Tom Brady and all that lemon juice he was drinking, it ain't losing. Time ain't losing no time soon, right? And that's just what we got to accept. But yeah, Joe Flacco, you get 2 back-to-back games with Joe Flacco. But after that, you don't want him in there. That's why they'll go back to DTR. JP says, how concerned should we be about our erratic defense against the run? And are we going to get A-Walk back for help? I think McVay is going to try to run the ball. I think A-Walk's going to be back. We'll see what the injury report is when that comes out, but I think A-Walk's going to be back in this game. Do you think the Browns get a new air raid focused offensive coordinator in the offseason to help Kevin, or maybe new wide receivers coaches, pass game designers? I think they'll make adjustments to try to update their passing offense as the year goes on, but I don't think that they're in any rush to do so. I think that they'll make these evolutions, with Deshaun Watson going forward, but I don't think they're going to do anything as drastic as like firing AVP and bringing in a new offensive coordinator, because again, we're really basing a lot of our frustration on the offense off of rusty Deshaun Watson and an unhealthy Browns team. I just don't think that we have a clear enough picture to make drastic changes to the offense right now. But that's it for the Q&A. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.